Hey guys, welcome to Same Circle Wrestling in the midst of Season 3. We're talking Survivor Series tonight.
What?
It was not my favorite pay-per-view. I guess I could
Why?
say.
I loved it.
The thing is, I go into I went into this with reasonably high expectations because now you got a vacant title and things could really be turned around. And really, none of what I wanted to happen happened.
Yeah, there was even a few solid weeks of Raw leading up to it, and there was just not much payoff to it at all.
I mean,
the thing going into it is sure, there was a vacant title, but you knew at the end of the day WWE was going to fuck this up.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how excited you were going into it. The clusterfuck train wreck that was the end of Survivor Series just fully encompassed the whole thing that we've been watching the past couple months. Viewership is in the goddamn toilet. No, it's not even in the toilet. It's in a goddamn blue bowl at a music festival on the last day. There's no redemption going on right now. For it to end as terribly as it was, I think it was kind of cathartic.
And how can you blame people for not wanting to watch it? There's no reason to blame anybody for that. It's all their own fault. Even with Rollins being champ, it was starting to go down the shitter.
It's just, even when you try to watch it, I can't even force myself to sit through a whole episode of Raw, even a pay-per-view now. It's that bad.
I pretty much watch until Dean Ambrose is done, and then once I realize he's not going to do anything to the main event, I just kind of flip off and go watch something else.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even, pay attention to the first match. I think I watched the second match. I think the second match was the Ambrose match. But, I know that, those two were probably, the highlight of the night because they were, number one, they were longer than the fucking main event and the co-main event. I watched Breeze and Ziggler. Which that wasn't very long either, and it was nice. I guess it was nice to see Breeze win, but I mean, as far as story implications, there was no build to that shit either, and the whole I don't know if we mentioned it before because it just happened somewhat recently, but the Brothers of Destruction returning, that whole thing was so rushed. It felt like it was just oh, it happened on Raw, and now Survivor Series is going to be a match, which I expected it to be. I think we definitely did talk about it, I'm pretty sure, because we were talking about what it could possibly be for an elimination match, 5-man or whatever. But that's what it should have been. Instead of having Bray have to choose one of his guys to be in the match with him, and have Eric Rowan just go in there and get chokeslammed and be out of the picture for the rest of the night. I feel like it should have been a 5-on-5, and they could have put people in there with Taker and Kane. But now it's you got a quick build, Undertaker and Kane win, which is pretty predictable, and now you also have the Wyatts losing again.
I think in the grand scheme of things, the Wyatts can absorb that loss, as Bray Wyatt has been doing since he came in. I don't think, other than the Ambrose feud, there's been too many times where Bray Wyatt's outrightly won. But I think it's kind of shitty the way they keep playing it off. They can just be the prey and the victim for Undertaker and Kane, because they're not going to follow that up at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of a wasted win as well as a wasted loss. But it kind of taints the whole idea of Taker and Kane going over, because what do they really have to prove?
Yeah, that's it. They came back for the fact that they came back. The Wyatts lose so much that they can lose to literally anybody and it doesn't matter anymore, because they just keep fucking losing.
At this point, it's almost as if losing and then shrugging it off as if it never happened is part of their gimmick.
Yeah.
Well, his gimmick isn't about winning. It's about, destroying his opponent. But, a month and a half ago, he was talking about how he took the soul of Undertaker and Kane and he's absorbed them and he's taken them under like his own wing and stuff like that. And then, they come back and get defeated. We didn't get our Space Jam payoff. They didn't empty the basketball back into their bodies.
Like with a slow build too, or a quick build rather. Just basically nothing at all. Like those promos with Bray saying he was, taking their powers and shit, which really didn't make any sense to begin with. That really culminated in fucking nothing and a wicked, incredibly forgettable match.
I mean, that whole pay-per-view as a whole is pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
I mean, the last probably 15 minutes was pretty cool, but it's only because, WWE saw where the line was between being clever and fucking everything up, and got to that line and then jumped way above it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it was somewhat predictable, but, obviously it's, like I said, going into it, knowing that there's going to be a new champion, that's somewhat of an interesting, way to go into a pay-per-view, but, with the expectations that I had, it just didn't meet them. Although the end was, somewhat exciting the way they set it up. It was basically just a relatively shitty match between Reigns and Ambrose. And, it ends, Reigns wins probably with a spear, I'm pretty sure. And he sits in the ring with the belt for 5-6 minutes. I think it was 5 minutes.
I've never seen a more telegraphed cash in at that point.
Yeah, and they're raining fucking confetti and shit. It's something's gonna happen, especially when you're 20 minutes, 30 minutes before you're scheduled to go off the air. The pay-per-view ended 15 minutes before it was supposed to, which doesn't make any sense because Raw goes 15 minutes over every night anyway, every Monday night.
Yeah, and they gave us the main event, the Ambrose and Reigns. They could have given us 10 more minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
There was no reason for that match to be under 10 minutes long, and they cut it short and still had the gall to end the pay-per-view 15 minutes short.
Yeah.
If I had bought that pay-per-view for full price, I would have demanded 1/12 of my money back.
I mean, they ended it short, and then they come back, and then they just show Reigns walking away for another 2 minutes, and it was completely pointless to me. But we have been talking about Sheamus having the Money in the Bank contract, and it's how are they going to put him into the storyline because he hasn't done anything? And we saw kind of what we saw at WrestleMania last year with Seth Rollins losing to Randy Orton, kind of sort of making people forget about him, and then coming back at the end of the night to win the contract. That's exactly what happened with Sheamus in whatever match he was in. I think it was the elimination match. Sheamus was the last guy in that match, got his ass beat, and then comes back at the end of the night to cash in.
Here's the thing that kind of throws everything for a loop. They talked so much about Roman Reigns' coronation and how this was going to be his moment. This was going to be his third attempt at the World Heavyweight Championship this calendar year.
Right.
So Ambrose has had 3 times this calendar year. Randy Orton's had 2. John Cena's had 2. I don't understand the whole concept of pushing Roman Reigns as this is his chance, this is his opportunity. And it's you don't mention when Dean has those opportunities with the same kind of gall, even though the audience largely does not give a shit about Reigns.
Right. Why push Reigns over Ambrose? Especially when during that match, you can tell that most of the crowd is behind Ambrose, and pretty much everything I've seen I would assume people would rather see Ambrose run in the show. And, I mean, you're going to have Byron Saxton in a fish tank, so that's a mega bonus.
Breakfast for dinner?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Ambrose being a champ is fucking best for business. That's some Austin era shit.
It would be stuff that would make people want to watch because you don't know what the fuck Ambrose is gonna do next, and like
Yeah.
it doesn't even have to make sense.
Like, you need to have Ambrose driving milk trucks and shit. Like,
Driving milk trucks through a Target in the middle of Dallas, Texas, like that would sell people on watching the goddamn show.
yeah. And
No
none
one
of
wants
that.
to watch a man in a chest protector tell you that this is real life, bro.
That was that was the worst. Like, I don't know if he like forgot his lines or what, but he was just like so dumbfounded by like
This is real life.
I posted that on YouTube. Actually, it's on my channel. His promo. But like, even if Ambrose doesn't have the title, like, still put him in these like scenarios where he's just like this fucking Austin type character, because we already know how much people love Steve Austin. Ambrose has got to be the closest one to Steve Austin, charisma wise.
I think it's got to be either Owens or Ambrose, but I think Owens just has that like pure asshole, always going to be there and say what he wants mentality, whereas sometimes, at least lately, Ambrose has this kind of I'm going to stick by Roman and not do the heel turn, and no matter what happens, like, I'm with Roman, he's my buddy, whereas Owens doesn't have a single goddamn buddy in the world.
Yeah, I mean, like, Ambrose is like more of a think outside the box kind of guy, and it's like Kevin Owens is basically get in there and win. Like, that's basically just his gimmick now. But like, Owens gets over so good because of the communication during the matches and just his personality in general. Just like, I feel like, and I seriously can't even stress enough how awesome it would be to have Ambrose being a straight up rogue, and even like a Shield 2.0 sort of thing where he just comes in and fucks up every match he can just for the sake of fucking up the match.
Man,
He should be the one-man band.
Yeah.
The thing is, Ambrose is pretty much born for that tweener role that they always want to seem to stick somebody like Randy Orton in, where he doesn't really have an alignment, he does his thing, and whoever gets in his way is gonna get the shit kicked out of him.
Right. He doesn't need an alignment. Austin was never really like well, I mean, he was a heel, but he was basically looked at as the crowd, like from the crowd's perspective, as a babyface because he was fucking against Vince McMahon all the time. I mean, you could still do the same thing with Ambrose and have him feud with the Authority.
The thing with Stone Cold is he was the heel storyline wise because he was always against the Authority.
Yeah.
But when you want to argue but the way he connects with the crowd, it was definitely one of those situations where he was getting over in a positive sense with everybody. He wasn't getting booed out of the building. And that's what you get out of Ambrose. And the problem is, I think you just hit on it a second ago, is that Dean Ambrose gets that Randy Orton kind of just loose cannon type. Whereas they're trying to make John Cena into Roman Reigns, so you end up with the two guys side by side, and it's just not going to work that way.
And like, it would be different nowadays because now you have like so many fans are fans of the heel gimmicks. So if you have Ambrose like just naturally in a heel gimmick, you're gonna get a ton of heat for that. Like, not heat, but well, yeah, I guess heat. But realistically, it's like the fans are gonna love a heel Ambrose or a babyface Ambrose. So why are you not pushing him? As far as Roman Reigns goes, the only possibility for him to be over with everyone is if he does turn heel. Because, well, realistically nowadays, though, it's like the older audience is into the heels, and the younger audience, like the little girls and shit, are into the baby faces like Roman Reigns and Cena. But it's like either one of these guys are so geared up for a fucking heel turn.
In regards to what you guys just touched on with the whole Roman Reigns thing, I actually read something I found quite interesting on Reddit. It would appear that they are positioning Roman Reigns, his whole characterization. He wears the all black, he's in SWAT gear, he's a big tough badass, he's a bit edgier of a character.
Is he the big boss man?
in comparison to John Cena, who's got all the colorful, the positive, never give up messages, they're positioning Roman Reigns to try to attract the fans who grew up as Cena kids, and now they're growing out of all the colorful, happy stuff, and they're trying to get that demographic to pick up on Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like it's happening, and I don't think it's going to happen if they keep trying to push him as the mega babyface Cena type.
It's so hard now, because now that they've pushed him so hard initially, it's hard for people to ever want to accept him just because of the way he was pushed on people initially. Now, if you like, there are ways you can go about it that will get people behind him, but not everyone's going to like this guy. I don't think enough people, at least, are going to like him to the point where they want him to be champion.
And if I remember correctly, Reigns and Ambrose, I don't know if it's in that order, but the two of them are number 2 and number 3 in merch sales. So you can tell that WWE is clearly terrified of turning them heel and losing those sales.
Yeah. But it's like, nowadays it's like, I don't expect those sales to drop incredibly if a heel turn happens. Like, nowadays I would expect them to fucking go up.
Yeah.
The thing that kind of jumps out at me is it was probably, 3-4 months ago when they dropped the Ambrose Asylum thing as being an object. Like, they mentioned it and nobody was really hitting about it or talking about it being a group. But now it's coming across almost like that's his dedicated fan base. And, like, when he's out there, like, the Ambrose fans are the Ambrose Asylum. Then they had, quote-unquote, the Roman Empire.
And
but then when you want to try to match the
section.
two, all they do is talk about how the Roman Empire has fallen.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's like they want to hype them, but then they never do anything to back that up.
There's a lot of split fan bases now. It's weird. Like, there's a lot of guys that, like, are technically good, like a Ziggler, a Del Rio, a Owens, an Ambrose. And then there's the guys that, like, are just over because of the way they've been pushed, like Cena and Reigns. But, I mean, I will say, though, that Reigns he's been improving in the ring. It's
100%.
It's just his promos, and like he doesn't have the charisma to be a champion, I don't think.
I think the underlying factor is that when someone like Dean or Dolph or even Tyler Breeze to a degree, Kevin Owens, Seth when he was out there, when they step into the ring and they open their mouth with the microphone in their hand, their character, their gimmick, their facial expression, and the way they carry themselves is all-encompassing. Like, there's no point when they go out there that you just go, oh yeah, this is a guy obviously trying to play a character.
Right.
But then Roman Reigns goes out there and he tries to play the tough guy and the family man and the brother, and he tries to act like this all-out badass, and you just can't piece all those puzzle pieces together because he's just out in left field.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
That's the bigger problem with Reigns, is everything about him is fake. They're trying to do what they did with Cena that got Cena into the trouble, is they're trying to push him as the underdog all the time, and you just can't buy into that when it's common knowledge that he's the golden boy, that he's been picked to be the next guy from day one. And nobody just buys into that underdog narrative, especially when he's booked as strongly as he is. He never loses clean. He beats the hell. He goes over everyone. He rarely even loses by disqualification, and yet they try to play it up like the odds are constantly against him, and they clearly never are, so there's no way to get involved into that storyline.
Right. I mean, like, it's... like Tim said, it's really like, it's so noticeable that it's a character. And like with Ambrose, it's weird because like you see things of him like outside of the ring, and he's barely, like, when he's in character, he's barely changing. Like he's like that outside of the ring. And I mean, obviously not as crazy, but like they say, you know, you turn yourself up to 11. That's what Ambrose is. Versus Roman Reigns, like, he seems like he's just a normal ass dude, and then in the ring he's just portraying this character, and it's really incredibly obvious to anyone that's watching, especially with those promos like I posted.
It's almost impressive that he has such a hard time portraying that character because there's not much to the
There's
character,
no character
at all.
Yeah.
Like, how can you fail that hard?
It's like the whole idea is the concept of they went from the Attitude Era to the Ruthless Aggression era into the Reality Era, and now they're having a problem with their most realistic stars getting so over with the public, but not over with Vince and Triple H and all of those people, and they're wondering why nobody is investing in their product. It's because they have the self-proclaimed reality era where everybody has a Twitter and an Instagram and a Snapchat or whatever the hell you want to do these days to be popular, but they don't move on that. Tyler Breeze has got the goddamn selfie stick, and he's won one match?
Yeah. And watching this back, like, this whole Survivor Series thing, like, it's incredibly predictable from the start that Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose are going to be in the main event. I've said this before, there's no harm in giving other guys the belt, even if it's for a short time. I don't see why they couldn't have thrown a curveball here and had somebody else win a match, even if it was Kevin Owens going over Ambrose in a match. Like, even if it was a semifinal match and, Owens ends up being in the main event. Or it'd be sweet if Owens ends up beating Reigns in the main event and then gets cashed in on. You got to throw us a curveball here once in a while. People know what is coming. Like, everyone on the internet knew that Reigns and Ambrose were going to be this main event.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's been a thing ever since they released the bracket. You saw that Reigns and Ambrose were on opposite sides. You knew that's exactly where they were going.
Right.
I think that was definitely it. Like, Kevin Owens could have been that wild card in there that could have changed the entire scene of things. And I would have been totally okay with Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns in that main event. But I think they're very weary of having people hold more than one title at a time, especially with the roster so quote-unquote weak.
Yeah.
That having Owens go out there and carry the Intercontinental and the Heavyweight title for any amount of time would have kind of diluted the product and exposed kind of their weaknesses, which also goes hand in hand with the stupidity of having both your U.S. and Intercontinental champions in the final four of that bracket.
Yeah.
Because you make it fucking painfully obvious where your direction is, because you know the two guys with the gold belts, that's as far as they're going to go.
Exactly.
And in doing that, they made it so that neither title could be defended in the first place, so you had nothing else going on for that whole month either.
And I can't stand when they say that their roster is weak, because that is definitely not the case. The problem...
It's so weak. They just got rid of Brad Maddox. And Solomon Crowe.
Yeah, they did. Well, Solomon Crowe...
He has to leave.
Yeah.
And Maddox might have as well.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. Dude,
You got Tombstone on Fallon. I don't know anybody else who's got Tombstone on Fallon.
That's true. He was in a chicken suit, too.
Hey, man. The gimmick is as gimmick does.
Like, I just feel like with SmackDown moving to USA, which happens in a couple weeks probably.
January.
I just feel like they could just... And I want them to split the brands so bad, but they're not going to, even though their ratings are awful. And because they have such a deep roster that they could so easily do it, but I feel like their writing staff isn't up to that challenge. And I don't know.
It's not the writers. Do not blame the writers.
Right, like that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't know how much of it really is the writers, or if it's because obviously everything has to go through Vince. So
that's exactly it. Like, the other real big wrestling podcast that I listen to every week features a guy who used to write there, and his whole thing about that is it doesn't matter how much you've written. It can still be 5 o'clock on Monday and Vince has rewritten Raw because he doesn't like this idea, because he doesn't think people will get it. Like, I remember a couple of years ago they were doing that whole poisoning Big Show with the burrito concept.
Oh, yeah.
And Vince got irate because he didn't think the greater public knew what the fuck a burrito was.
Oh my
Not
god.
to mention somebody in the goddamn boardroom ate a burrito every day for lunch while they discussed this. So all of a sudden Vince goes, well, what the hell's a burrito? Who would know what a burrito is? And the guy had literally been eating a burrito every fucking day for lunch for like the past month.
Anyone who has ever eaten Mexican food.
Yeah,
So
that's the kind of out of touch that they're at. And the whole idea is like, they can write a beautiful story and the writers do a great job trying to piece all of this shit together. But Vince has no fucking idea.
Especially when he makes changes just before the show and shit. Like, I cannot wait until he's like straight up doesn't have, like, he's not the channel that everything has to go through. Like, I understand that people are like getting frustrated with Triple H and things, but it's like Triple H doesn't have everything to do with this. Like, everything
goes so far.
Yeah, everything still goes through Vince. Like, I feel like with Triple H in command, he's got a knowledge of the business, and he's more in touch with the era that we're in now. And I feel like it is going to change directions. Just the question is, when is that going to happen? And I think it's long overdue at this point.
Yeah, because you have to think, Vince, is he really even as good of a creative mind as the high points of WWF have shown us? I mean, you have to figure, outside of Austin, who only really happened by accident and then out of necessity, like, look at all the other guys he's tried to turn into the face of the company. You got your Lex Lugers, your Ultimate Warriors, just guys that are giant who can't wrestle at all. And maybe not so much with Warrior, but for the most part, they're guys that the crowd never really gets behind that much. And the only person who's really, truly, fully behind them is Vince himself.
I mean, this is the guy that approved, like, the gobbledygooker and shit. Like, you gotta look at it from that kind of perspective. Like, the shit that's gone down in the past, like, he is questionable. His decisions are questionable a lot of the time. I say bring back Vince Russo.
No, definitely not. The way that I like to look at it is Triple H is still the kid asking his father-in-law to take the car out on a Friday night, and which is fine because he's going to take that car out, he's going to have a good time, he's not going to ruin anything.
Yeah, one of the days he's going to get the keys, though.
One of those days you hope he's going to get the keys to that beautiful car, but until then, Vince is still telling him when and where he can and cannot go.
Right.
Which is why NXT was great until the Full Sail crowd ruined it for fucking everybody.
Yeah.
I can't even watch that show anymore because that group just annoys the fuck out of me. Like, it's not about the crowd, it's about the people.
And not only the crowd, but like this year at least, it's been really hard to watch just because the matches are fucking squash matches or they're just boring matches up until at least the main event. And even those are nothing big. And I don't even remember, when was the last takeover? Was it Brooklyn? Or was there one by after that?
Yeah, Brooklyn, because they really haven't done anything. The title hasn't been defended really since then.
Yeah, that's the thing. It hasn't even really been that bad match-wise in the past couple months, but it's just the matches are better, but there's still not much of substance going on in them.
And it's all focused on the women's division, too. It's not like, oh, Finn Balor's the champ. Like, Finn Balor has just been the champ kind of on the sideline in a way.
Yeah, the focus on the women's division isn't even so much a negative, except that division just isn't as deep as the rest of the card. Right, quality-wise, it's fine, but there's just not as much you can do.
And they pulled up all their talent. They pulled all their talent up to the main roster, and now those people that are on the main roster aren't doing anything. Like, you have Sasha Banks not doing anything. Like, Charlotte and Paige were the main event, or the main Divas match at the pay-per-view, and that was like the big feud. And now you have Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, arguably the two best that they pulled up.
Thank God.
Sitting on the fucking sidelines.
Yeah, Becky seems to be the resident pin eater for the Divas Evolution. And Sasha, who's still like, hyper over, even though she hasn't done a goddamn thing. The crowd clearly wants her, and they just continue having her do nothing of consequence.
And it's like, is Charlotte really over to the point where she needs to be the champ? Like, I don't.
She's not that over, and she's not that
exactly.
great.
Like I don't buy it. Like,
the problem is they decided to go with Charlotte for the title because they can do the Ric Flair rub.
Yeah.
But Nikki Bella is out with injury, so they have Paige to go up against her because Paige is that bridge to the Divas division.
Well, they had to put somebody in as a heel.
Well, exactly, and I think Sasha is the perfect heel to go against Charlotte. We've seen it in NXT. We could see this in WWE. But they're afraid to pull that plug because I assume it's Vince, but he's looking at it going, well, if we put two NXT girls against one another, who the fuck's going to know what's going on with our Divas division?
Yeah, he
what
thinks...
about the women who are already there?
Yeah, I think he thinks that no one knows who the fuck these NXT girls are. And, like, I think you... Putting Paige in there is a decent idea, but I think putting Charlotte was questionable. It's just that, like, I guess Paige realistically is a better fit, most likely because if you put Sasha Banks in there too early, now you already burned out that feud, and are you going to come back to it later? It's like maybe you want to build Sasha Banks first and then have her be, a title contender.
And that reminds me, can we talk about that Charlotte and Paige contract signing and how they gave Paige that Reed Flair remark to make? That has to be...
If you're gonna go heel, go ugly, buddy. Go ugly.
That was 2015's version of I Wish You Died in the Womb. That was... one of the worst things I've heard all year.
I swear, they're like... And there's two techniques also that are supposed to be big spots that I've seen in the last couple weeks that, like, just are so dumb. Like, number one, Charlotte's spear is just the ugliest goddamn thing I've ever seen.
Yup. Oh my God.
It's not even a spear. She literally just spins around someone's waist, and that's... Like, there's no impact to it whatsoever.
It's like a waist-level backyard wrestling version of Seth Rollins' Sling Blade.
Yeah. Like, it literally... you can't even sell that. Like... And then, what is it? Paige doing her submission move on the fucking table?
Yep.
Like, what the fuck is that? Like, what?
I see this going to a match at TLC where the winner between Charlotte and Paige is the first one who gets the other to tap out on a table.
On the table. Like, what does the table have to do with it when your submission requires the other person to be in the air?
Let me tell you, Vince has been watching the wrong kind of internet videos for that to pay off.
Yeah.
No, I would hope that they get some kind of, like, chairs match out of this.
Like, I swear, like, I was thinking, though, like, realistically, I was thinking, like, oh, they're pulling the table apart. Maybe one of these bitches is going through a table. And she fucking...
That would be fun.
I mean, come on, dude.
Let's have a tables match. First woman that throws the other one through a table wins the belt.
Why not? Step it up.
That'd be crazy as shit.
I mean,
Candice LeRae would do that.
They're trying to fucking say that this Divas division is, it's a Divas revolution. Fucking let them go through the table, dude.
What they'll end up doing is having fucking Sasha Banks ruin the match, and it won't be Sasha's fault. That's just how they're gonna book it.
Yeah. Fuck it. Have a Money in the Bank match with the Divas.
I'd watch that. As long as you get Eva Marie as the ladder.
Yeah. So let's talk about Raw a little bit. Even though there wasn't much to it, it was kind of odd, really. I thought like there was some weird, like it was almost like they were making cameo appearances, like.
It was like a rehashed bits of Survivor Series you may have missed.
Right.
Flashed in with a slideshow of Survivor Series you also may have missed. It's like they had the tag team match of Dean and Dolph against Tyler Breeze and Kevin Owens. Like, why?
Yep.
No one needed to watch that.
The only thing I found interesting was Swagger coming back.
Thank God. Well, I mean, it's only a placeholder until John Cena probably ruins their match at tables, ladders, and chairs. And then Jack Swagger goes back to the disabled list, and just Vince is disabled, so that's where he puts people he doesn't know what to do with.
Yeah. That's why they call it that, I guess.
Come on, Jack Swagger could be the perfect Biff from Back to the Future if he were to be a wrestler. And they refused to pull the plug on that.
I like Jack Swagger, like, in the ring, and even, like, on the microphone he's been getting so much better. But, like, he just doesn't get any credit for it. It's weird, too, that, like, Neville is always in a situation where, like, he's not going to go anywhere. And, like, I can never see Neville getting a push, because I feel like Vince doesn't want to push these high-flying guys anymore.
But where's he gonna push him? Like, what direction? There's only so many places you can push people. And, like, I get that, but you see Neville, he's so low buried, but where are you gonna push him to?
But, like...
Intercontinental, U.S., heavyweight? Like,
that's the thing, though. Like, there's 3 fucking titles. There's 3 titles, and 2 of them barely have any storyline whatsoever behind them. Like, what is Owen's storyline right now?
Dean Ambrose.
But is that really his storyline? Like,
I mean, they got the match for TLC.
Ambrose was just in a title match, though, so now you're just throwing Ambrose back into that picture. It's just fucking weird that they don't have separate stories for each of these titles and, you know, like, building a star for each title. They can do that. Like, that's how you build guys. Use the belts.
The irony is they look at Dean Ambrose as, like, the guy who's just hungry for a belt because he's never held a belt before. But I honestly think out of the guys from the Shield, he's had the belt for the longest time when he was the U.S. title guy and he never defended it.
Yeah.
I honestly think he had the title longer than Seth had the World Heavyweight.
That was just so that they could all have a belt.
Well, exactly, but they're like, oh, Dean Ambrose, he's just chasing after any belt. He's fucking crazy. He's unhinged. He just wants to wear a belt. It's like, you watch him wear jeans, you know he doesn't wear a belt. He's already worn a belt for, like, an entire year, and no one gave a shit.
Yeah, and, like, if they really wanted his character to do that, like, they could just have him make his own belt, like they've done in the past.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I mean, like...
The lunatic belt.
What was it? $1 Million Man had a belt.
Yeah!
Fucking...
Let's do that.
Mick Foley, well, he didn't make it, but Vince gave him the fucking Hardcore Championship. I mean, why not? Do it. The fucking, the Lunatic Fringe Championship.
There are too many people with absolutely nothing to do in that company. And then I hear conversations about how thin they are at, say, upper echelon.
See, that's what really pisses me off.
And it's like, you don't get upper echelon main event stars until people see them in matches longer than 3 minutes on the 4 different shows that you put out every fucking week.
Yeah.
If you can find 4 minutes in your 3-hour-long Monday Night Raw broadcast that you say that you have a struggle of a time trying to fill storyline-wise, here's an idea. Your storyline can be 3 sentences. Hi, you're a face. You don't like the heel. Second sentence. Hi, you're the heel. You don't like the face. Third sentence. This is why you two personally don't like each other. Boom. Go. Give them 10 minutes and see what the fuck happens.
Yeah.
That should be the brass ring right there. If there's your 3 sentences, go in the ring, tell us a story. And if they can't do it, boom, back out on the road and they can go to Ring of Honor.
Yeah, and they act like they want you to tell a story, but there's no story to tell. And it's like, I feel like they just want someone to step in and be this big star, but they don't wanna build anyone. And I think, like, realistically, that's why they when they took Lesnar back in, they're just like, oh, we'll make him this beast. Like, that's guaranteed. Like, we don't have to build him. He's already built himself from his WWE career to his UFC career. Like, he's already an established dude. Let's just throw him in the picture. Like, they didn't have to do that. With Seth Rollins, they did have to build him, but they built him through the Shield.
They built him through the Shield, and they built him through the destruction of the Shield.
Yeah.
Because he was the authority property So they could just immediately piggyback off anything the Shield did and say that was Seth's toy.
Yeah. I mean, so now with the Authority, where does that go? Like, obviously Sheamus is part of it. And apparently Rusev is too, which that didn't make any sense. He came out of fucking nowhere.
Sheamus is like the hired gun. He's like their Wild West guy that they just needed in order to get the belt back on their side.
Right.
Because they had such a problem with Seth on like the last probably 2 months of his reign, that whole feud with Kane, that like they couldn't trust him anyways, and that was building toward him breaking off. So Sheamus is like a whole reimagination of the whole idea.
Like, they always want a heel to have the belt so that a babyface can chase him, and they think that's going to build the babyface, but it never seems to work. So why do they keep rehashing it? Like,
I don't really know anything else, I don't think. I mean, at this point, I'm not sure if they know anything, period, but like, in reality, it is hard to book. Like, how do you have a babyface hold on to the title for a long period of time without it getting stale?
And another thing is, like, they say that they're a weak roster, but the problem really is that they're too strong of a roster. Like, they can't put everybody in the spotlight at the same time. And realistically, there's so many guys. I mean, I could probably think of 20 guys off the top of my head that deserve a spotlight, and they don't get it.
The main problem is that on your 3 titles, you have Kevin Owens, who is the top heel in the company. He has the Intercontinental Championship, which is theoretically a stepping stone to the WWE Championship, so he should be next in line. Then you look at the Intercontinental Championship, and you have Alberto Del Rio, who I believe is held the title 3 times? Like the main heavy championship 3 times?
Yeah.
It's at least 2. I think it's 3. Anyways, you have those 2 guys holding the belt as well as Sheamus. What quality do they show to those 2 belts by saying, oh yeah, the other 2 guys are people who are quality people who can hold the heavyweight championship? And then you have Heath Slater, Titus O'Neil, Damian Sandow, Brad Maddox up until today, Adam Rose, Fandango, people who are doing absolutely nothing on a day-to-day basis, who should be physically challenging, if not only to keep their name on the roster every week so that when people tune into Raw, they don't know who's going to be there, but they don't know who's going to be there in a good way.
Yeah.
You need to have an overflow of people who look like at any chance they can challenge for the belt. Not people who are going to come out, spit like a 3-line promo about, oh, you people don't cheer me, that's a problem for you, and then carry on, get their ass kicked, and disappear for 6 months.
Yeah.
And even then, when these people do show up, like Heath Slater showed up on Raw, and he comes out and he cuts about a 5-minute promo on just Nashville, how he's the one-man band of country music sucks and all this, and it's like, are they actually building something with him, or what's going on here?
It's time killer.
And then Ryback just comes out and squashes him for no reason, and it's like, do you really expect that we're going to see a Ryback and Heath Slater feud going forward? No, it's like, it's just a self-contained storyline, which in itself isn't bad, but like, there's got to at least be something to do with it
in the
going
overall
forward,
picture.
and they're not. And
Right.
I think that's really shows what the problem is. They're booking week to week. There's almost no overarching storylines at all. There's maybe one for the heavyweight championship, and if you're lucky, 2 others, one of which is usually a Divas storyline. And that's just if you're lucky. There's not much continuity to go at all. There's just nothing happening.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like, I still say you split the brands, man. Like, with USA getting SmackDown, you take a US title and put it on SmackDown, give them another major title. Now you have 4 title storylines going on, and you can build guys even below those on separate shows, and then during pay-per-views, you can, have promotional matchups, I guess it would be called. And, like, there's just so many more ways to build guys when you have two separate shows. I don't understand why they choose not to do it.
It could be so simple because it would get all of those extra faces on what's probably a 60-man roster some kind of screen time.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting that with the current setup. And I know we argued about the brand split when they were arguably deeper, when they still had, Rob Van Dam, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, people that could kind of fill out the week to week if you need to fluff out a show because half of your roster is on another one. But there's still all those people who are being underutilized, and it's stupid to have them on your roster, on your payroll, and not put them on TV because you need to spend 20 minutes talking about the Authority.
Right, with the guys that come out and do these little promos like once in a while, like Bo Dallas or something, they could be in a, even a minor storyline on a different show. It's really just, it's mind-boggling that they haven't even really thought about splitting the brands, especially with the money that they have and the ratings that SmackDown is not getting. Like, both shows are in a ridiculous rut right now.
Yeah, and I'm starting to worry that they're actually going to go the opposite way with it because if you look historically, guys that they're about to let go usually get like one or two goodbye appearances where they just randomly show up before they're let go. I mean, you just had that with Brad Maddox on, I think it was Superstars, where they have him randomly come out in a tag match with Adam Rose with that weird emo tag team they were talking about, and then they bury him on commentary the entire match. Not even, just to, shit on his character or anything in kayfabe, but, they were just going out of their way to make him seem worthless, and then he ends up released. And I'm starting to worry that with Heath Slater randomly showing up and just getting squashed, and him not being anywhere on the show, they might be looking to go the same direction with him. You could see him getting released.
Yeah.
I could see, with how ratings are doing, they're going to be looking to be losing some profit here soon enough. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be trimming down their roster.
Yeah.
I mean, the people who are left are going to have to work that much more, and you've already got the injury problem, and everything is just fucking going. They're doing everything wrong. I can't even. Nothing they do makes sense.
Yeah, and it's it seems like it's so weird because wrestling fans, it seems like we always want to see what we want to see, and we just criticize it if we're not getting what we want. But it's at this point, at this junction, they're on such a downward turn that they have to do something. They have to do something to step it up, and they have to do something that the fans want. And they just don't seem to listen to the fans in any way, shape, or form.
I pretty much have to agree, but I mean, that's something they're going to have to address. They talk about the lowest ratings ever. Obviously, that doesn't take into effect all the Hulu recuts and the people torrenting it on Timesa.tv or whatever the hell it is. There's plenty of people still watching the product every single week, whether or not they're paying for it.
Yeah,
so.
let's face it. I mean, even their low ratings are fucking good ratings. They still beat out Monday Night Football and shit like that, and I don't know how.
No, they don't. They only had just under 3 million viewers.
No, they didn't beat Monday Night Football, but they beat.
No, nothing
they were
touches Monday
top
Night
5.
But overall, in a social environment, they beat out the NFL and things like that because of their fan base.
Oh yeah, because you got so many people going to YouTube to just check out the segments that they actually give a shit about and not watching anything else. So at least WWE can spin it in a positive way and say, oh, well, our YouTube views are increasing. We have one of the most popular channels on the site. But that's not a symptom of a positive fucking trend for the show.
I'm not sure how ratings work exactly. What they can see from do they have the information from Hulu viewers?
No.
It's so they aren't getting
rating
that contribution.
Views have to do with the amount of people watching television and that viewership rating. So basically, say there's 10 million people watching television on Monday at 8 p.m. If out of the 10 million, 1 million are watching Monday Night Raw, they would get like a 10% rating for the show. So based on the fact that it's getting rated so low, that's just available people watching TV. Like that low rating, as Bill said, right around 3 million people. There's roughly 330 million people in America. So about 1 in 110 million people, or you know what I mean.
I believe the viewership numbers. I
1 in
believe
130 people are watching.
I believe the numbers were the actual number of viewers was just under 3 million. I believe the actual rating was a 2.16, if I'm remembering correctly.
I mean, there's so many different ways to watch it now that I feel like that is definitely like chipping into what their overall ratings are.
Yeah, it'll chip into the total viewers, but
Right.
the rating is a percentage, so that really shouldn't be affected. And the rating is also at an all-time low.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's
there's
clearly
fewer people than ever watching television at that time slot. So there's going to be fewer people than ever watching Raw. So it shouldn't necessarily be a hit the panic button kind of situation, because there's plenty of people watching it the next day.
No, it's not a. It's not a desperate situation, but if they keep doing what they're doing, they're not gonna succeed because realistically they need to change something up. And I think like realistically every wrestling fan out there wants to see them change shit. There's so many wrestling fans that don't even watch WWE now, and it's because it's predictable.
Hey, like I said before we started recording on the podcast, Sheamus is not the champion that WWE needs, but he's the champion that the WWE and the fans deserve.
Yeah. I think, honestly, like, I just can't wait until Lucha Underground comes back on, because this shit is, like, I'm done talking about WWE.
Does that mean you want to wrap it for the week and we'll do a show right before TLC?
Yeah, we can do that.
sounds good to me.
Yeah, thank you for listening to our rants, which, like, typically we do like to rant about WWE. Like, when we do talk other shows, it's, like, we're not as harsh on them, usually. But I guess that's just because WWE's the fucking big dog, you know? You expect them to be able to go places.
Yeah, for the most part, the other shows aren't such trash.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, really, like, TNA gets a lot of shit for, like, what it is, but, like, when you watch the show itself, it's not bad at all.
No.
Like,
The idea is that we grew up with WCW and WWE, well, F at the time. Between the three of us, like, that's the one that we always have to harper back to.
Yeah.
That's the one that we can look at and say has been the constant.
yeah.
When we see Lucha Underground, we see Ring of Honor, we watch, I guess TNA from time to time can still pull a decent show together. But WWE is that one that we've always had that connection to. And we constantly watch them fumble the ball at the 3-yard line. And we wonder what the fuck is happening at Titan Tower in Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is the best generation to be a wrestling fan. Because you get Lucha Underground, you get PWG, all those other shows that you're able to go to if you want to watch pure wrestling. I mean, New Japan Pro, get a subscription to that if you can afford it.
Yeah.
It is one of the greatest things you can watch.
Yeah, New Japan is terrific. Yeah, actually, Wrestle Kingdom coming up at the beginning of January, so that's something to keep watch for.
So, I mean, the wrestling is out there if you're going to look for it. We just want to harper on WWE because we know that
It's the name brand,
Vince is
dude.
holding everything back.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is, too, is there's so many rules, like so many restrictions that you have to follow in the ring that you don't, like, when you watch TNA, like, they're allowed to do so much more. Like, and not even just TNA, but in Lucha Underground, like, the rules are just non-existent. And it's so much more entertaining when they can be creative. They have room, to come up with spots. And in WWE, it's just, you're at a certain point where everything's been done. Like, there's a ceiling and we've already hit it. There's nowhere to go from there. It needs to be, freed up a little bit. You need a little bit more room to work as a performer. They want you to grab the brass ring, but you can't fucking reach it. There's a glass ceiling there.
The brass ring is Vince McMahon seeing how far he can reach and drag his company underground.
Yeah.
That is the brass ring.
Yep. So, like I said, when fucking Lucha Underground comes back, that's my number one priority.
That'll be our thing to actually talk about and enjoy.
Yeah. Because I don't see anything wrong with that show. I haven't seen anything wrong with it since I started watching it. And
from what I've heard about the new season, it's going to be even better.
Of course it is. I don't know, when we find the final roster, we'll talk about that and where it's going to go. Like right now, it's still Huertas is the champ. You got his Droogs are the fucking trio champions.
Katrina's taken over the home castle for Cueto.
Yep. That's what.
Which doesn't mean that he's out of it. It just means that since Muertes won the title, that she's assumed the role of Cueto.
Right. He can't be out of it. They still have the whole Cueto's brother storyline going on too. So I guess with that we'll wrap it, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, that's it.
Same.